Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Manchester Evening News, the Manchester City side of the Manchester Evening News. Of course, we're back here with a little bit of a discussion video. We had the Talking City podcast that went out last night on our YouTube channel, and of course, all across Apple and Spotify and all that good stuff. But we're back here again, a day where I thought there would be no Manchester City news. It looks like there is a little bit. Lucas Paqueta, Simon Bajkowski. What can you tell us about that one?
Yes, well, I'm sure fans will be happy that things are happening at least. But yeah, the West Ham midfielder is another player that City are looking at in the transfer window. I believe he would cost kind of upwards of £70 million. There's talk of 85 million. If West Ham were to sell him, so he would be a significant outlay. If City were to go that high, be City's second most expensive player ever. But he would kind of strengthen that midfield that has lost Ilkay Gundogan. They have signed Mateo Kovacic for £30 million from Chelsea, so they have done some strengthening already. And there was kind of the expectation that Phil Foden would move into midfield, and they do have Kevin De Bruyne, who is kind of fitter than people imagined he would be at this stage. And there is also growing expectation that Bernardo Silva will stay at the club, but with Mahrez gone as well on the wing and not really replaced, and Gundogan gone, there is interest in Paqueta.
Where would you expect him to fit? Where does he fit in this team if he was to come?
I think if he was to come, he would fit in that central midfield with the number 8 roles. You would think that if he were to do that, then you would have him, you would have De Bruyne, you would have Kovacic, and then you would have Bernardo and Foden, but you would also kind of have Bernardo and Foden predominantly used on the right wing, I think, if that's going to be the case. And then also sort of you're saying James McAtee, obviously a young player in that position, involved in the team on the tour. City rejected serious money for him earlier in the window to have a look at him on the tour. You would think that he would go out on loan. I mean, I think that's a discussion, even if they do sign another midfielder or not, but he would definitely go. You'd also think Calvin Phillips is kind of another player in central midfield who would probably come in ahead of him.
Especially if the interest is, if it's genuine, which it seems to be. Once again, it's another knock on Calvin Phillips, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that is it's a point that's worth making, because whether City sign these players or not, it's the players that are already in the squad have got to be seeing these links and thinking, well, hang on a minute, where does that leave me? And it might be they might not sign any player, but the fact that they are looking even kind of is enough to kind of put a few questions in the minds of existing squad players. And competition is no bad thing, and City have thrived on it, having players for various players for competing for one place. But it is that central midfield area is one that does appear to be already well stocked, so it would kind of have a few knock-on consequences if they were to do this deal.
Yeah, he played it almost in a sort of base midfield, didn't he, with Rice at West Ham, which, yeah, it's a little bit confusing, but like you said, maybe he'll advance a little bit. But yeah, apparently Pep's been a big fan of him.
I think Pep's a big fan of every midfielder. I don't think that's necessarily the take from it. And also, yeah, I mean, there is the fact that they were interested in Declan Rice, and obviously they've had interest in Bellingham, and there's a lot of interest. There's also interest in Elise at Crystal Palace as a winger. So I think there are just so many options that they're considering at the moment. There's no kind of definite, we are going for this one guy, in the way that, say, Gvardiol was at centre-back. It was like, we are getting him. I think with Paqueta and with others, it's just kind of casting a wide net, I think.
Yeah. Do you think just finally, Si, do you think it's a necessary signing? Would you be going for Paqueta or?
He's not a signing I would make, but then
Hmm.
I'm probably not equipped enough to be Manchester City manager. And it
Not sure
isn't
about that. Not,
my
not, not sure about that.
it isn't my money. It is funny because the whole window has this kind of sense of a bit of confusion, really, as to what City want and what they need and what they're going for. They kind of had it. The last time they had it was in 2020, I think, was the year
Hmm.
when they needed a centre back and they were going for a centre back for ages, and they were chasing Koulibaly for ages, and then sort of from nowhere they kind of popped up after they got battered at home to Leicester, and they said, "Oh no, we've signed this lad called Ruben Diaz instead," and
Yeah.
Ruben Diaz single-handedly transformed the defense and kind of replaced Company, and it was like that is the best signing you could possibly have made, but it came after this summer of a lot of people saying, "What on earth are they doing? What are they waiting for?" So that is an example of how things that can look confusing can turn out very well. But also, I wouldn't necessarily want to say Diaz is the rule when he might be the exception.
Definitely. Well, we'll leave it there as it's just transfer chat, Si, and we'll wait and watch this space, I guess. But we'll keep you updated on the Manchester Evening News as always, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will catch you in a bit. Cheers.